October 22, 2025. Welcome to the Bremerton City Council study session. For the first time in memory, a study session named more than a dozen local advocates and organizations, and it matters. So, for more than a decade, we've been the ones on the ground, seeing the gaps, serving the vulnerable, pushing city officials to face this massive inequity that we've been seeing. And at the last City Council study session on October 22nd, we saw some result of that work. And names and efforts were finally put into the record during what I consider a pretty historical conversation about who's been doing the hard work and why it matters. You know, people, primarily like the media sometimes, or the police officers or city officials, they ask me or talk about me to other people. And they're always asking, what's her angle? What's her deal? And this video can help show what my deal is. We can speak up because we aren't dependent on the city funding. We aren't dependent on friendships with officials or institutional constraints. And we can advocate freely and persistently. We could do that even better once they bring back public recognition at city council meetings, but that's another video. But for now, these conversations and the videos that I'm going to share are finally happening at the table where decisions are being made. So in the video clips here that I'm going to post, I'm going to break down like what was said, who was named, and why this moment matters for people experiencing homelessness and other vulnerable people in Bremerton. And, it also matters for those of us who are not homeless or suffering in this way. The health of our community, it's determined by all of us, you guys. And if we sit back and just watch the needless suffering of others, we aren't far away from this approach when tragedy could potentially affect our own lives. So let's watch closely. This is what years of advocacy looks like. All right, so I want to be transparent about where I get my information from. And for this particular video, I sourced from the Kitsap Sun, from an article they wrote on May 11th, 2024. And I'll put the link in the comments below. So here's some background. Common Street Consulting has a year-long, it's like $212,000 contract for outreach for unhoused individuals. And it started with a 1-month pilot program that the Bremerton Police Department hired them for back in December 2023. And then that full contract began in January 2024. So in short, it was initiated by the local police department. And back then, even sometimes still, where local advocates are thinking this is a little off because we've been warning for years that there aren't enough services or resources or housing here. And honestly, my first thought was, well, I sure hope they can provide some housing because otherwise they're just going to, be doing what we've already been doing, be getting paid. And what have we been doing? We've just been trying to survive with the limited resources that are available, and then even placing people in other cities or jurisdictions because we just don't have enough options locally. And we have consistently highlighted this on the Bremerton Homeless Community Coalition page for an incredibly long time. And then also, to be incredibly clear, I do not think badly of Trisha or Common Street at all. I appreciate them and what they're doing just as much as I appreciate all of the local advocates who have kept this work alive without the support or attention or funding that they totally deserve. So I am grateful for their efforts, and they're helping push this story forward and bringing us to where we are today. So, but you guys, you know me, at the same time, I will hold city officials accountable for the very long and expensive route it took just to get here. All right, so now I'm going to share some highlights from this study session. First, I want to highlight a wonderful moment where Councilmember Michael Goodnow stood up from his seat at his table, and he offered our friend and fellow advocate Jose a chair. And that gesture was incredibly meaningful, and it may matter even more right now because of recently some council members, including Denise Frey and Jennifer Chamberlain, they've really portrayed Jose as someone to be feared, and even going so far as to suggest he might be dangerous or could become a domestic terrorist. And these kinds of totally unfounded accusations coming from public officials are deeply damaging, and they really put people at an incredible risk. However, as quickly as that uplifting moment passed, Council Member Chamberlain then went on to make at least one comment referencing a active shooter training. And she laughed, and she did say she watches too many movies, which I think is a really interesting personal insight. And I just want to emphasize that words from elected officials carry weight, and we need accountability on how they describe our friends and our community members that we love and trust and know protect us and aren't here to harm us.
Associated with diverse.
I think that knowing that having the right data set is important. And so just knowing which data set to use, I would just love all the other ones detailed out. So I thank you.
This is what I have so far. So
okay.
I'd like to move on to the water filtration plan. Okay. So on page 90, tucked away in the Jarstead Park Trail discussion, is an actual breakdown of the high cost.
Yes. Okay. I watch too many movies, so I'm imagining like there's going to be some big task being a school employee and active shooter training and having other drills that we take part in. Okay. I like it. People need to be safe in this day and age. Thank you.
President Younger, do you have any questions?
This next few clips show Common Street representatives who arrived with the Bremerton police captain, Captain Elton, and some slides that outline their collaboration with the city of Bremerton. And I'll also show some videos, some highlights where local advocates and organizations were named, with audio from Captain Elton from the Bremerton Police Department, from the Common Street representatives, and from council members, including Jennifer Chamberlain and Jane Rebelowski.
Next up is Senior Outreach and Engagement Specialist Fisher Munson and Project Manager Brendan Urquhart to present item B1, the quarterly update from Common Street. But you don't look like Trisha.
I didn't hear what was said, but no, I'm
Oh, hi, Trisha.
We were able to locate him, and he did have to be strategically removed from the hillside with a pretty decent injury. I don't say decent in a positive way. It was not comfortable. But we had some significant collaboration that happened during that. First of all, I have to shout out, I'm going to shout out Don Michelle, but specifically the CARE program, which is the pet program that helps in Kitsap County, and is also with the Kitsap Rescue Mission. This individual had a dog who is his companion, and of course the dog can't go in the ambulance or to the hospital, and Don Michelle was able to go pick up the dog, and CARE was able to swoop in and get the dog fostered for a little while during the hospital stay. And then Their Voice, which is another nonprofit that assists pets, they were able to continue some follow-up care for the dog, including a very, very much needed nail trim.
Thank you.
Well, with that,
Yeah.
Captain Elton today.
Well, I was going to do just one thing, but I'm just going to say after we listened to all that, and certainly listening to Trish, you can tell I think we got the right people in the room talking about things that I don't fully understand. And that's okay, because law enforcement has a different job than what they do. But it's been a pleasure to partner with them and to bring people into this conversation who can maybe address these things a little bit better. And I really appreciate Trish, recognizing people for doing the work, because they're clearly not doing it alone. And we've had people throughout this community, people she mentioned and people she hasn't mentioned, that are out there doing this. And one thing that I was thinking of as she was talking was they all share this similar trait where I was trying to figure out my words for this, but they share this similar trait. And I think it's best described as like consistency and commitment, because like they said, not everything ends like happily. Not everything is super smooth. They're committed to sticking with these things. They're long-term law enforcement handles things, at the spur of the moment. We get called when people are not doing their greatest. We spend a few minutes with them, and then we're on to the next thing. They're really doing the work. People like Common Streets and other people around the city that have been doing it for years. So I wanted to say that. The other thing I wanted to say is I'd like to get onto the schedule. We're on the agenda with John Hickling for the next Public Safety Committee, where I'd like to address whether or not we're going to continue on with this relationship and with Common Streets. We need to renew the contract. So
yeah, just back to that second bullet point about the other service providers, I think it's important for you to hear names, honestly. And so I can't stress to you enough how much some of the real team members have been so helpful. Brandy, April, Chris, Frankie, some of the collaboration and coordination has been incredible. And a lot of times you just have to adapt and overcome in the moment to meet the needs of the individuals we're serving. Also, again, I already did shout out the Salvation Army, but I think it's important. And then Sonia from Kitsap Mental Health, who's running their forensics teams, incredible. Dice from the Heart team in KCR has continued to be an excellent partner. And then a lot of the volunteer individuals. It has been incredible to see some partnerships come together and some collaboration and coordination that's been working really well in the community to help serve the people that we serve and that we care about so intensely, and just the intention behind it has been really awesome. So I think it's always important to shout some of that stuff out. And I do also want to shout out Janae from Benedict House. Man, her job is so difficult in my opinion, and she makes it look so easy. But I'm overly impressed with her, and I think it's important for you guys to hear the good and the bad, and so I really think it's important to hear names.
Well, there's other programs that are coming up that I really am excited about. I had a really great... Do you have much connection with Eagles Wings? With Michelle Fleetwood and Eagles Wings? Okay.
We do utilize them as a housing source, yes, and their new respite program is very responsive.
And they have an exciting project coming up.
All right. In some of the next clips that I'm going to share, there are some highlights of council discussions about a low barrier shelter and safe parking and sanctioned campsites. Council member Goodnow, he was actually heard mentioning portable toilets and dumpsters at a safe parking site. Wow, you guys, what a change from just a short time ago. What's happened? I'll tell you what's happened. You have happened. Your caring and your advocacy raises the voices of those who have lost theirs. I do, though, want to call out and explain a concerning choice of language. Council member Jennifer Chamberlain used the term Gen Pop in one of the videos where she was referring to where some clients, particular clients, are placed in shelters like family versus other clients who aren't, maybe with children. Or even with pets, there's a separate area generally for people with pets. So as I'm pretty sure most of you guys know, unfortunately not, or hopefully not from lived experience, but Gen Pop is prison slang for general population, which is where the main group of prisoners are kept, rather than in special units where other people might be kept. So using that terminology for human beings in homeless shelters is so inappropriate, because it treats or it talks about people like they're prisoners, and it creates an hierarchy, and it's incredibly dehumanizing. And I would hope they can learn from this to maybe use neutral, more respectful terms instead, residents or clients or shelter participants, and less terms that describe populations in a prison, because the people who are unhoused are not in prison. They're not prisoners. They're not in Gen Pop.
In regards to safe parking, I personally, not as a council member, but it'd be great to get all the council to agree to sign on, is I went to Kitsap Transit, and they have park and rides all over the county that are totally underutilized. And I asked them to look at starting a safe parking program a lot of the board members were really excited and thought that was a great idea. So maybe that will be coming, and maybe Bremerton's the one that could lead the way and show them how to do it, because there's lots of information out there already.
Parking lot, bike, Kitsap Transit, the Bremerton lanes.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
Just get some portable toilets out there.
Yeah, I mean, you need
know how they can fit 5 families, because not only that, you have to, and this is a low barrier. Nobody's asking about anybody's criminal record or nothing, so you got to be careful where you put the families. You got to put them separate from the gen pop. So they have the upper level.
What I did is I followed. I had a lot of conversations with Anton Pressinger from Northwest Hospitality, and also some with Marwan, but.
And then also with the low barrier shelter, I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and there is a lot of very talented, very skilled, very compassionate, and very dedicated, loyal people that work on your teams in Bremerton and throughout the county that probably would agree in the fact that we truly need something that's low barrier. Salvation Army is definitely low barrier, but right now, like I said, they have 97 folks there, and they have 5 family households right now in the Salvation Army shelter. And so I think that those things that's a struggle. That's something that's concerning, and I think that is where we definitely can put some thought and some action into. I want to shout out the transportation piece. Anna, thank you again. But the transportation piece with G2 has been such a huge benefit when it does come to the SUD stuff, specifically to get people to their appointments and their assessments. And then,
all right, another video highlight I'll share next. Councilmember Jennifer Chamberlain, she finally called for a moratorium on the incredibly unconstitutional and unlawful anti-camping ordinance. And it's so amazing that she did that. But the timing is so telling. Let's not forget an amazing individual in our community that's literally saving lives every day in Bremerton. And you can really see her work on the weekends, Jocelyn from the Bremerton Prayer Walk. And she is on the record, you guys, pleading for a moratorium for such a long time. And she's totally been ignored until enough public pressure that's being placed on the officials has forced them to now talk and act, hopefully. Definitely talking about it. Now let's hold them accountable, right? So this all, it's great. It's really great. Don't get me wrong. But it really feels like a response to pressure and not like compassion or it did not happen organically, basically. So just be glad that they're raising these issues, but don't stop pushing. We must keep holding them accountable. This is just the beginning. And I really want to thank you, Jocelyn.
So now that we are over the limit and they are at the point of turning people away, we 100% need again to reevaluate this ordinance that we have that's anti-camping. What are people going to do? You know, we need to have a moratorium on it.
Wow, did you make it this far yet in the video? So lastly, in this clip, where the city is, they're discussing safe parking sites and like developing them. They admit that the city shouldn't try to reinvent the wheel or hire outside firms when they already have local data and people who can help. That is such a great full circle moment, isn't it? We've been saying this for years. The city and police ignore us until they have to spend over $200,000 to bring in outsiders to hear the exact same ideas. It's really sad that they needed to pay so much and rely on outsiders. And it does show a major lack of respect to fellow community members and experts. But hey, at least progress is happening. And I'm really, really glad local advocates and organizations are finally getting like a small amount of the credit that they so deserve. And it's good to still be around to see that. I mean, I thought maybe in like 100 years they'd finally get it. I mean, this is like taking so long, you guys. It really is. So moving forward, we as a group are going to continue supporting our community with or without the outside help, and we'll keep helping the outsiders who need our help to help our own people. And, you know, this mission is just in the beginning stages. So, you know, honestly, it's actually been so helpful to have an outside firm connect people to those few resources that we have here. It just takes us so long as a group to like deliver even the simplest things because of how poorly designed and mismanaged our city is in this particular department. And I mean, they admitted that they didn't even include any funding in the upcoming 2026 city budget for including anything for the homeless shelter that they had kept talking about and saying that they wanted to support, but there's nothing in the budget for that. So scary. The city's collaboration with this outside firm has actually really freed us up to focus on exposing the corruption and the collusion that we've been uncovering, and that is among city officials and sadly even the police department as well. Look no farther than just that recent $500,000 police brutality settlement that we were able to bring to your attention. So this, their unconstitutional anti-camping ordinance is also going to continue placing our city at great risk of litigation and financial loss.
I had another,
We don't have to recreate the wheel.
No, we can't create the wheel. We have to use we're not, why would we waste the money on a consultant to recreate the wheel? Other people have done it for us, so let's copy them.
Well, congratulations for making it through this video. Maybe I'll just tell everyone the timestamp for the conclusion so they can just watch this clip. I do appreciate it if you're listening. So basically, in conclusion, I hope you all can see how these video clips that we're sharing from the recent Bremerton City Council study session on October 22nd, 2025 are highlighting some really long-time advocates who have been completely ignored until public pressure has actually forced them to be spoken about. And I hope this encourages all of you to continue to hold officials accountable. And I really hope it shows you how people like Jose and I are not vile, aggressive terrorists, and that we're actually just putting pressure where it's needed to maintain a balance and an equity for all of us, not just the wealthiest few. So let's just be glad that all these conversations are happening, and don't let up. Keep pushing, holding leaders accountable, and supporting local advocates who have been doing all of the work. And in the meantime, I'm just going to be that woman, that vile woman playing her ukulele. Take care, everybody.